Chadini and I randomly started cooking, and I'm glad I did because it's something that I can't picture myself not doing now.
Hey everyone, I am Hash from Deli. I have a small home business. I have been running it for over 12 years.
As cliche as it sounds, I find cooking quite therapeutic, and I love having friends and family over and cooking up a whole bunch of dishes for them.
I'd always baked with my mom, but then that was tedious. You know, you mix the butter and the sugar for the longest time and it takes the whole day.
Cooking to me is something that I do with a lot of passion and something that I put a lot of heart and soul into.
If you have a really good cake, everybody's going to be talking about it. It lifts up your mood. For me, if it's a really good dessert, people stop talking. They go, when they taste it, and that's the reaction we want.
I'm really excited to share these dishes with you, and I hope you enjoy making them. This is my homemade.
So I'm very excited to be joining you all for 4 episodes. This is my homemade.
Hi and welcome to another episode of Homemade. My name's Chadini from Percy and B. Today we're going to be making a cold soup called Gazpacho, which is really easy to make. You just basically chop up a whole bunch of vegetables and put them in a blender. It's perfect for when you want to have a really light dinner or lunch. So what we're going to first do is we're going to chop up some tomatoes. You don't have to worry about cutting it perfectly because everything's going to go in the blender, which works out perfect for me because I'm really bad at cutting. So once you're done chopping, you can put everything into a blender. You can also use a food processor because it works the same. Then we chop up a tiny little piece of the cucumber. And we add that to the blender as well. Just a little bit of the green bell pepper. Keep a little bit, save a little bit for later for the garnish. And now we chop up the red bell pepper. As with the other one, keep a little bit for the garnish for when the soup is done. And then we can chop up the onion. Add that in as well. Then you add some pepper, some salt, a little bit of garlic, 7 tablespoons of olive oil, 3, 4, 7. Then you add a little bit of balsamic vinegar, a little bit of water into it as well, and a couple of ice cubes. A few pieces of bread. Now we put a lid on it and blend it. And if you have some extra time, you could also quickly make some croutons to go with the soup. So how you make that is you quickly you can keep the corners if you like. Cut up some bread. Cut it into little squares. These croutons look a bit too big, and you put it in the oven for about 5 minutes. So now our soup's ready and the croutons are out of the oven, so we can go ahead with serving it. And add the soup onto the bowl. Some people don't like all the pieces in it, so if you don't like it, you can strain it and then serve the soup. We can add a few ice cubes. Garnish it with some cucumber, some red bell pepper, some green bell pepper, and a few of the croutons. And it's done. So now we're going to give the soup a little taste and see how it is. Really good. So this soup is a little bit thick, that's the way I prefer it. If you want it to be a bit more thinner, you can add more water and ice before you blend it, and you can also strain it so that the pieces are a bit less. So it's personal preference how you prefer it. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and this is my homemade.
Welcome to another episode of Homemade. I am Hash from Hash Deli. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. This is a showstopper dessert. You are going to be so popular after this, so let's get baking. So this is called a fondue pot cake. A showstopper dessert. You are going to be so popular after this, so let's get baking. So this is called a fondue pot cake. I'm not going to explain why yet, but you will see why when I get to the end. Right, first things first, you need a nice bundt pan. Yeah, any size is fine. If it's bigger than this, you need to just double the recipe. That's about it. And the cake that we are making today, it is neither a brownie nor a cake. It's somewhere in between. It's like a hybrid. You get the texture of brownie but solid enough to hold its own as a cake. Kind of like a mud cake as well, where you take a spoon and you're like, that's the reaction you want from your guests. Right, first things first, let's butter. I've buttered my pan already. I'm gonna flour it. And now in this one, this is a very, 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 very important step, because if you miss even the tiniest little bit, that bit will stick to the pan and it will not come off, because this cake is rather sticky. So you can see how I'm sprinkling this all around, and I'll try to show you all as much as possible how I do this. Just go around, no need to get messy, but ultimately it might get messy, who cares. So this bit, guys, to flour that is a little bit messy because it's the right smack bam in the middle of this, right? Alright, so this is what you want, everything nicely coated. Don't use oil to butter the pan. You need to use butter or margarine, something really sticky, not shortening, because shortening tastes horrible. Right, here's my granulated sugar. I always use granulated sugar. If you've been following me, you would know that, because granulated sugar is basically caster sugar, but it's you can do it at home. Right, so dump all the, I've already mixed in the flour and the cocoa powder, baking soda and baking powder in this. Dump it all together and let's get sifting. So there are two reasons why we do this. One is that it gets rid of all the lumps, especially cocoa powder. Even though cocoa powder is ridiculously soft, it still forms lumps that does not break up when you bake a cake, right? You don't want to get like the last little, you know, like hard bits of sugar into the cake, because it will not melt in the cake, even though it should, because you're basically heating it, but not in this structure. Right, so you keep this aside now. Now let's get your chocolate and butter melted. I'm gonna dump in the butter into the chocolate. Now lots of people would use a bain-marie. Honestly telling you, I might have used a bain-marie when I first started baking, but I haven't used one for a very long time because it's so much easier and faster and less messy to microwave. So I'm gonna take this to the microwave, and for the first one I'm just gonna put 30 seconds or maybe even 40 seconds. It should be fine because that's the first time you're heating it up. But after that you have to be very careful with chocolate, because chocolate burns. And in the microwave sometimes it gets concentrated into one spot, and if the chocolate burns, there's nothing you can do. You have to get rid of it and start over. It's partially melted, and you need to mix it up so that the heat gets distributed. You don't want it concentrated on one spot. Wipe off your spatula. Right, so and we have another set of wet ingredients as well. So that is eggs and curd. So anytime your recipes say sour cream, use curd. It works perfectly, it's fine. So I always use curd because I like to be a little bit Sri Lankan. You know, I love Sri Lankan ingredients. And I'll show you another Sri Lankan ingredient that you'd be surprised to find in this bake. But it is not a curd and treacle cake, even though I'm gonna use treacle as well. Okay, alright guys, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna keep my bowl of chocolate, melted chocolate and butter on my metric scale. Please invest in a nice digital scale. I've had this for like, I think all 10 years and it still works fine. I love it. I don't know what I'd do without it, and it will measure to the last gram. So I'm going to switch it on and I'm going to pour the treacle right into the bowl. So I don't have another container that I need to wash. So about 150 grams of treacle poured straight into the chocolate and butter. Give it a nice stir. Then you pour in the rest of the eggs and the curd. The reason I'm beating it together is because the curd is lumpy and the eggs tend to stay together. Eggs can't be lumps. Hash, what are you saying? Alright. So dump it all in. Mix the chocolate with the eggs. You don't need a whisk for this. I'm using the fork because that's more than enough. Because whatever bits of curd you see now will get mixed in properly once you put the flour in, the dry ingredients in. So the last step of this cake, you take this up and dump it into all the wet ingredients, and look at that. Dry ingredients, wet ingredients, you get yourself organized and duck, you can get your baking done. I have wasted no time in unnecessary steps. You can use a big spatula as well. Absolutely no need to invest in a whisk when you are doing this kind of cake. And this is so chocolatey. It's actually one of my favorite cakes. So now carefully pour it in. You don't want to touch the edges. Yeah, you want to pour it in the center and go around. Be very gentle. All smiles gone when I'm doing this because it's so tricky. All right, so that should do it. Just tap it down a few times just to even out the dough. You can run a spatula or a fork or a spoon or anything like you'd like to flatten it out, and bake for 1 hour. You don't have to even check because it's a slow baked cake. It's baking at 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which is very, very, very low for a bake. So just put it in the oven for 1 hour and you're done. And when you need to take it out, just cool it completely in the pan and then turn it over very slowly, very carefully. And that's how you make the cake base. So our fondue pot cake is ready. Right? Why am I calling it fondue pot? Because Hash has lost her mind. But you know what? I'm never really that sane to begin with, so the joke's on you. Right, so you guys, this is the cake. It's nice and gooey, yeah? And what I'm gonna do is make a really perfect chocolate sauce. It's neither thick like a ganache, it's a little bit lighter, right? So I'm gonna take 200 grams of dark chocolate. Again, whatever brand you'd like to taste is fine, and 300 grams of whipping cream. I'm just gonna pour it right in. No bain marie here. Right, so pour it all in. You can't even see the chocolate right now, and let's get microwaving. So because it's a lot of whipped cream, I'm gonna heat it for 1 minute straight first, because I want the whipping cream to get really heated up and then to melt the chocolate. I don't need the chocolate to melt because of the microwaving. I need the whipping cream to melt it. So, and guys, you know, this is such a foolproof way of making ganache, chocolate sauce, anything. Pour the whipping cream with the dark chocolate and heat it. So I heated it about twice more and got a beautiful chocolate sauce. If you want it thicker, please keep it in the fridge for a little while. But as it is, I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do because I don't have the time. And you can see this cake is quite stodgy. Even though it's really delicious brownie-like, it's also quite firm. So this is what I'm gonna do, you guys. I'm gonna fill this cavity with all the chocolate sauce. And I'm gonna pour some around because why not, right? And it fills almost to the brim, but not really. If you are taking this to a friend's place, I highly recommend that you take the chocolate sauce separately in a container. Otherwise you don't want this spilling and going everywhere. So now that this is done and looks so yum, we are gonna have some fun. So these are some meringues I baked on a stick. So let's stick some like this. Kind of like a campfire theme, but this is honestly the best, absolute best dessert to take for a potluck. And take some barbecue sticks and let's make it interesting, you guys, because why not, why not? You live only once and might as well enjoy it. Yeah, keep that on the side. How about, so I have my trusty blowtorch and it has been with me forever, so it's a little bit broken here and there, but works like a charm. And let's get that campfire marshmallows going, right? Smells heavenly in here. So stick those wherever you can, and kids are gonna go absolutely bonkers with this. But of course, if I'm making this for adults, I spike the chocolate sauce just a tiny bit because, I mean, come on, you need to make it a little interesting, right? Oh, look at that, look at that. Ah, smells so caramelized and nice. So you guys can do whatever you like, you know, you can stick anything around, you can put biscuits or whatever you want people dipping, you know, not skinny dipping hopefully. And that is how you make the yummiest chocolate fondue pot cake. I promise you, you have not seen this anywhere else. You go to a friend's place with this and everybody will remember you and remember the dessert, and they will talk about it and they'll love it. So this is the fondue pot cake. Now you know why I call it fondue pot cake, because you can eat it as a cake or you can use it as a fondue bowl. How awesome is that? You're gonna be eating the container, which is the cake. So I am gonna taste this. Like, let's hope I don't get chocolate on my face this time. So you guys know this is not easy for me, right? You know, the funniest thing is, I've toasted so many marshmallows. First time I tried one with chocolate, it's gorgeous. You know what, guys? I'm sorry, I can't even focus anymore. I want to go, you know, have the rest of the marshmallows. I can't wait to do that. Alright, so thank you for staying with me again and having patience, trying these things out. And of course, please contact me. I'm Hash from Deli. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Please let me know if you guys have any questions at all. And thank you for joining me on another episode of My Homemade.